I'm not absolutely sure that Army of Ghost Doomsday is the best of the 5 Rusty Davies penned finales, but it's definitely the one that is the most solid in its construction. This two-parter lacks the grandiose ambition to define last year's Bad Wolf of the Part of the Ways. Nevertheless, it's always a two-parter that I look back on with some great love and pure nostalgia. It was one I certainly had on repeat in the Series 2 box set when I first got it, and I loved it then, and still love it now. This two-parter does, however, engage with some larger thematic questions. It's just that these issues are overshadowed by the arrival of the two evil alien armies. In theory, this story sets itself up to resolve some of the big questions that this season has raised about the Doctor. In The Christmas Invasion, Harriet Jones suggested that the Doctor was fundamentally an interloper in the affairs of humanity, which could not depend on him in the face of an alien invasion. Tooth and Claw pushed the idea further with Queen Victoria's rejection of the Doctor and Rose's blasé attitude towards the chaos and destruction unfolding around them. The modern-day Torchwood is the realisation of Victoria's plan to fight the alien horde, and the word Torchwood has popped up in almost every episode going back to, ironically enough, Bad Wolf. Unlike the previous arc phase, the Torchwood era is thoroughly logical, even prosaic. Compared to what we got last year, and, at the risk of spoilers, compared to what we get in subsequent finales, everything about Army of Ghost Doomsday feels so relatively sensible. That's mostly a very good thing, though perhaps not entirely. To that end, this story positions the Doctor in his traditional role as a heroic defender of the Earth. Tracy Ann Overman is a lot of fun as Torture leader Yvonne Hartman, who is allowed to occasionally question the Doctor, but Davis's heart isn't in these criticisms. The Doctor is so obviously right about the danger that the ghosts represent, and Torture's antagonism towards the Doctor is rooted in so much paranoia and slightly anachronistic human chauvinism that it's possible to take seriously the jabs at the Doctor's superiority. It's not as though Doctor Who is incapable of placing the Doctor in a morally ambiguous situation. Yvonne Hartman might as well have proven a more formidable opponent than Harriet Jones when the Doctor slipped in vengeful god mode after the destruction of the Sycorax spaceship. In this case, though, there's never much question that humans are messing about with the forces they do not understand, and with enemies they cannot hope to defeat. The only reason that Yvonne or Parallel Pete, Tyler, criticise the Doctor's imperiousness is that they don't understand that they are in a Doctor Who story, that they are merely support lead characters in a narrative that requires the Doctor to be a hero. It's hard to imagine any scenario that is more uniquely Doctor Who than one in which the Doctor must stare down the combined might of the Daleks and the Cybermen together. The season has tried to suggest that the Doctor isn't always as good and righteous as he claims to be, but this finale can't take that argument to its logical conclusion without breaking Doctor Who's core premise. Still, the reason this doesn't much bother me is that Army of Ghost Doomsday is so successful in many other respects. Whatever these episodes failing as a closing argument for the second series' suggested themes, they still represent a supremely entertaining 90 minutes of television. The story is an effective sequel to Rise of the Cybermen Age of Steel, although this two-part manages its foray into action movie territory without quite as much silliness as the season's first Cybermen story. Davies cleverly arranged the story so that the Cybermen can take over the entire planet. In one of the story's best lines, the Doctor grimly points out that this is a victory, not an invasion, while the focus remains squarely on Torchwood Tower. A truly global incursion is too massive for Doctor Who to portray plausibly, but the show has half a century's experience with the base under siege. Director Graham Harper makes the legendary Doctor Who standby of running up and down corridors as thrilling as possible, and he does a really good job here as director. What's more, Davies and company fully understand that Doctor Who's first ever televised showdown between its two most iconic monsters should be equal parts momentous and cheesy. The war of words that opens Doomsday plays like what a child might be saying when they're playing with Doctor Who action figures, which is exactly right. It's just about in character, for the Daleks to rant about the pest control, and boast that they can defeat the Cybermen with a single Dalek. But creatures of pure logic like the Cybermen really shouldn't be that catty about the Daleks' disinterest in aesthetics. As it turns out, the two-parter subscribes to a fairly rigid hierarchy of villainy. The imperialist humans of Torchwood are overwhelmed by the Cybermen, who in turn are humiliated by a handful of Daleks. As a Cybermen fan myself here, I'll admit that I'm disappointed by their poor showing here, but I've always rationalised with the belief that the real Mondasian Cybermen would have put up more of a fight than their Cybers counterparts here. Plus, it's a nice touch to have the Cybermen first propose an alliance with the Daleks, and then later ally themselves with the humans against a superior threat. This isn't a big moment, but it's one of these season's better illustrations of the cold, dispassionate logic that defines the Cybermen, and sets them apart from the Daleks in many ways. It's hard to remember that now, back in 2006, it was actually somewhat shocking when the Daleks emerged from the Void Sphere. The Daleks have since firmly established themselves as mainstays of the programme, but the sense of Doctor Who fandom at the time was that the first season had belonged to the Daleks, so the second season would belong to the Cybermen. The decision to hide the Daleks' return inside the Cybermen's reappearance gives Army of Ghosts a terrific cliffhanger, possibly the best we've seen in the new series so far. It's another example of the solid construction of Davies' script that, given the fact that Rose had used the Bad Wolf energy to wipe out every single Dalek in the universe, he comes up with a really nice way to introduce the Daleks from outside the universe, neatly tying in with the parallel universe origins of the new Cybermen. The concept of the Genesis arc is also similarly clever. The introduction of recovered Time Lord technology suggests a massive range of possibilities, even more insane and fanish than the one before. The ultimate reveal that the Genesis arc is a prison ship can feel oddly underwhelming. It takes an object that could hold forbidden, much wanted knowledge about the Doctor's home planet, and instead the contents are just millions of Daleks. Maybe that isn't the most imaginative answer, but it is one that fits most cleanly into the rest of the story without unbalancing everything else that's going on. Besides, it's a stroke of genius to build the scariness of the Genesis arc about the one thing we already do know about the Time Lord science: it's bigger on the inside. Again, I can't quite shake the feeling that the Partner of the Ways, for all its imperfections, and the far more serious imperfections of Bad Wolf, represented a far more daring experiment for Doctor Who, but sometimes daring can be overrated. In its story of torture and the war, Army of Ghosts never quite attains greatness, but it is never actually anything less than really, really good. With Doomsday, Davies does what really is the most sensible thing to do with the oft-imagined Dalek vs. Cyberman scenario. He has fun with it. Anything else would be fan pandering. And he goes for the other logical bit of drama: Daleks whooping Cyberman arse. This isn't King Kong vs. Godzilla. There's only one way to play it. Those of you who said the Cybermen were merely second-rate Daleks were sort of correct, and Doomsday confirms the verdict. This, however nostalgic, plays out as a bit of a dampener on the Cybermen, and actually did quite a lot of damage, and took a long time to repair from that. So, to Rose's inevitable demise. Not a physical death at all, it turns out, but an emotional one, and apparently unalterable severance from a beloved Doctor. Their respective sadnesses are utterly in character. The demonstrative Rose, inconsolable and slapping the dividing wall, the Doctor quiet with a despair, shedding a single tear. This is a scene that will return to haunt us in the future, with Rory and Amy on opposite sides of the TARDIS and the girl who waited, but we'll get to that in time. Not content with that,
Systems closed.
This stopped working. He did it. He closed the breach.
Not content with that, Davies torments us further with their ghostly reunion on Bad Wolf Bay, standing right next to each other, yet worlds apart. And another sentence replete with run-of-the-mill richness. I can't think of what to say. Imagine having only 2 minutes to say everything you want to a person you love. It's impossible to think of without the idea of tearing up. Since his 2005 return, Doctor Who has always found ways to think big. But how often does it deliver on this scale? Yet with so
Where are you?
Inside the TARDIS.
There's one tiny little gap in the universe left, just about to close. And it takes a lot of power to send this projection. I'm in orbit around a supernova. I'm burning up a sun just to say goodbye.
You look like a ghost.
Hold on.
Can I...
I'm still just an image. No touch.
The final point I must discuss is the beautiful work once again from composer Murray Gold, who fully utilises all of his talent here, with what can only be described as his best work to date, at that point in time anyway. The track for the end of the episode, aptly named Doomsday, is among the most excellent in his tenure as composer, and is truly iconic. The scene when Rose is taken away from the Doctor with that infamous two-shot of the two of them on either side of the white wall will forever be iconic. A massive part of that is from the fabulous score from Gold. Brilliant stuff. Overall, while this two-part isn't the strongest, it is certainly very enjoyable and does provide a plethora of character development. Tennant and Piper give some really great performances, especially in that final scene on the beach. I give The Army of Ghosts an 8 out of 10 and Doomsday an 8.5 out of 10.